You're listening to Big World Network.
Amazing Grace, Episode 1. Written by James Hellvig, read by Meagan Hedin. Kat and Tammy silently monitor the frantic activity of the medical personnel working in the decimated room. The bodies have been hastily removed and set in the hall. The saddest for Kat had been Brenda. Anna's grandmother had been killed in the breaching of the bathroom. A jagged piece of the door's locking mechanism had nearly decapitated her. Tammy stands with her hands balled into fists as the team of doctors and nurses load Mac onto a gurney and whisk him away. Another team labors fervently over Dale, his shredded clothing cut off to expose his wounds. Cursing, the blood-soaked physician snaps orders at his attending staff. "Damn it, he's flatlining! Clamp that! Clear!" Dale's limp form convulses, once, twice, and the medical team loads him onto a gurney for transport to the ER, snapping bags of plasma and drugs onto the steel hooks protruding upwards from the frame. Rushing past the silent commandos with barely a glance, they hurry away, trailing fresh gore onto the blasted corridor's floor. Turning away, Tammy slams a fist into the wall with a savage grunt, cursing vehemently. "Son of a bitch. My fault. I should have stayed." Kat squeezes Tammy's shoulder, her own eyes tearing again. "You couldn't have known, MT. None of us could. Come on, we've got work to do." Breath hitching, Tammy fights again to regain control. Clamping down hard on her emotions, she straightens her back, pushing off the wall and turning to face Kat and the small group assembled there. Face wet and eyes red, Tammy's features harden as she tells them. "They got out, but not clean. The bastards have my family, people." Holding out her bloodied hands palm up, she implores, "And I need your help to get them back." Jorge blinks in surprise as the trio of assault team members, dressed in civilian clothing and carrying two limp forms, hurriedly pile into his waiting vehicle. "What the hell? I was the emergency backup. What went wrong?" Speaking to the grim-faced man slamming the passenger's door shut, Jorge asks, "What happened? Are there more of you coming?" Facing Jorge, the fury barely contained in his dark expression, the man barks, "Shut up and drive!" Slipping into the snarled traffic, Jorge suppresses the urge to retort. "Get rid of them and get back to the vatos." Demonis Alumno watches from a surveillance room as the teen and the old nun are handed off to her security personnel, a slow smile of satisfaction spreading across her features. A bit of luck. Now where's that cop and priest? The smile freezes when the lead mercenary suddenly and viciously backhands one of her minions. His eyes blazing as he turns and faces the camera directly, he pronounces clearly, "Soft target my ass." Folding his arms across his chest, the man glares steadily at the camera, waiting for a response. Pressing a stud to activate the intercom system, the arms merchant says coldly, "Problems, I take it. Bring Jorge up with you." Jorge watches the exchange dispassionately, worried about the lack of contact with his other gang leaders. Must be all of the confusion downtown. Surely they didn't all get arrested. Hearing the clipped dead tone of his employer snaps him out of his reverie. The lead mercenary inclines his head sharply, indicating that Jorge should walk ahead of them, and, without a word, the three mercenaries start off for the elevator. Demonis Alumno's penthouse-level suite can't actually be reached via the car. The last floor must be traversed by foot and is sealed at each landing with a heavy door and monitored by guards. No one enters with a weapon unexpectedly. In the quiet confines of the elevator, the soft hum of a cell phone on vibrate is heard. Taking the phone from his pocket, the hard-eyed man listens for a moment before grunting a single word in reply. "Da." Placing the phone back in his pocket, the man shrugs at Jorge's questioning expression. Biting back a curt response, Jorge leans against the side wall, trying to feign disinterest. As a small group of tense men clear the security checkpoints, the mercenaries lag behind, the older man whispering to his companions and escalating Jorge's apprehension. "To hell with it. They've got the kid and the old woman. My part is nearly finished. I just gotta tread carefully." Entering the living and working area of the powerful woman, Jorge relaxes slightly, seeing that there are no other guards present, and maneuvers himself to approach the seated arms dealer's massive desk from an angle where he can see the other 3 men from the corner of his eye. Watching him approach, Demonis Alumno smiles slightly as the gang leader stops, nearing the corner of her desk. Looking directly at him and speaking in a mild tone, she says, "Your task went smoothly. Have you seen the footage?" Frowning, Jorge shakes his head, replying, "No, the radio and cell signals are all down. You're doing?" Sighing loudly, Demonis Alumno answers sourly, "No, government jamming, I suspect." "Well then, let's get you up to speed." Using a remote, Demonis Alumno turns on the large screen monitor behind her, the image frozen to 20 seconds before the last explosion. She clicks another button and the commentator's voice floods the room, saying, "As you can see behind me, a large group of people are gathering in protest of what they feel is wrong." Jorge's eyes widen in shock as a young man steps forward, his jacket falling open an instant before the blast obliterates the feed. Looking at the stone-faced woman, Jorge can only blink, as Demonis Alumno says softly, "That was then, this is now." The screen shows a chaotic scene straight from hell, the words in bold typecast proclaiming "live." Blood-soaked emergency personnel, along with numb-looking civilians, doggedly tend to the massive casualties. Scores of moaning men, women, and children huddle in groups, waiting for elevated levels of care. An emotionally raw voice speaks in jittery patches as the camera angles and views are slewed from one spot to another. "Obviously, we're staying clear as much as we can, using long-range lenses to bear witness to this horrible attack." Jorge's lips compress together, becoming a thin white line, and his hands clench tightly, balling into fists. His head swivels slowly towards the seated Demonis Alumno, and he hisses roughly, "You crazy, evil bitch!" Enraged, Jorge starts around the desk, and the lithe woman springs up to meet him. Jorge reaches and grabs her shirt, bunching it in his hand. He jerks Demonis Alumno forward while throwing an overhand right hook aimed at her grinning face. Using the forward momentum to her advantage, Demonis Alumno steps outside of Jorge's left leg with her right foot and scoops her left forearm up, torquing with her hips and back to slam it into his groin. Head snapping forward, Jorge's floundering punch half turns him toward Demonis Alumno, who grabs his abused scrotum with her left hand, squeezing with vice-like intensity. In her right hand, the stiletto blade appears like a great magician's trick, and she punches the thin blade through Jorge's lower lip and into his right nostril, holding the suddenly frozen man there briefly before releasing his crotch and following his slow drop to his knees while keeping the blade in place. In a tone laced with merriment and contempt, she laughs, saying, "A bitch. Really, Jorge?" Attention shifting to the 3 watching mercenaries, she continues, "Be with you in a minute, boys." Leaning down until she's nose to nose with Jorge, then, she whispers, "You seem distraught, Jorge. I did tell you I was using your little gang as a distraction." Eyes tearing wet and blood soaking his neck and shirt, Jorge grunts, "You killed them." Using the knife as a lever, Demonis Alumno tilts Jorge's head slowly forward and nods once, the razor-shaped blade cutting halfway through the trembling man's nostril. "And I will dismember the last of your family while you watch if you don't do exactly as I say." Her face becoming an amalgamation of rage and insanity, Demonis Alumno leans hard into the bleeding man's face, screaming, "Do you understand?" Gagging, Jorge struggles to keep still so that the knife can't cause any further damage, and sputters, "S-S-E." Pulling the hilt down quickly, Demonis Alumno frees her blade and stands in one motion. Taking a handful of Jorge's hair, she slams his head into the side of her desk, letting the groaning man drop of his own accord. Walking around to the front of her desk and sitting primly on the edge, she wipes the crimson blade on her pants leg, ignoring Jorge's smeared blood dripping from her chin. "Now then, where are the people I sent you for?" Anna wakes to find Mother Steele pacing the small room. Sparsely furnished, dim lights reveal a drab and unremarkable space, akin to a bland budget motel dwelling. Bladder swollen, Anna struggles to rise, nature's urgent call cramping her stomach. Coming to her aid, Mother Steele says softly, "Come on, young lady, you'll feel better when you're through." There is no door or dividing wall in the bathroom area, and the older woman tactfully turns and leaves the space. Cameras are mounted in every corner, the red power indicator shining brightly. Closing her eyes, Anna tries hard to clear her mind while her abused body relieves itself. Her jumbled thoughts keep turning to her uncle on the last images she remembers before losing consciousness. Tears slide down her face as she stands, awkwardly pulling her jeans back into place. Stumbling back into the center of the room, nose running, Anna nearly collides with Mother Steele, who firmly embraces her. Shaking with sorrow, fear, and anger, the young woman fights valiantly to compose herself. Mother Steele soothes. "Let it go, dear." Choking back a sob, Anna hugs the older woman, saying hoarsely into her ear, Dale, did you see my Nana? I don't remember." Moving them both to sit on one of the narrow beds, Mother Steele rocks Anna comfortingly, clearly fighting tears of her own. Locking gazes with Anna, she answers honestly, "I don't know about your grandmother. George, Father Bernard, is gone." Swallowing thickly, she continues, "Elizabeth was shot, as was Dale. I don't know if they survived." Shoulders slumping, Anna asks urgently, "What are we going to do?" Taking a deep breath, Mother Steele replies softly, pulling Anna closer, "We pray, child." Mumbling onto her shoulder, Anna asks despondently, "What if God isn't listening?" Stroking Anna's hair, Mother Steele kisses her forehead, whispering, "God always listens, dear, always." Rocking together with Anna, the weary nun's brow wrinkles in worry as her voice drops even lower. It's the answers that we sometimes don't understand.
This has been a presentation of Big World Network. Visit us on BigWorldNetwork.com for more free weekly series, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Big World Network.